Hello, Colin Hung here for Healthcare IT Today, and I am super excited to sit down with my next guest. Him and I have had a lot of great conversations. I'm looking forward to another one, so no pressure. But David from Greenway, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. It's great to be here. Great to see you.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, and this is a great HIMSS event that we're at today.
I know, it's always a lot of fun to talk. It's always fun to talk with you live. We've had a lot of technologies come through healthcare, each one touted as the next big thing, the next big thing. I think we're safely past the point that AI is the next thing because I think everyone would agree that it's going to have a positive impact on healthcare. My question to you is, how positive is AI going to be on healthcare?
Yeah, great question. And, I've been working in the AI and machine learning space, particularly in healthcare, for over a decade now. So it's kind of amazing how quickly things have really accelerated. If you turn back the clock even a year ago, I feel like everyone was running around with this idea of generative AI and looking for things and problems that they could whack it with. But I think now what's really great is that, we as an industry and certainly at Greenway, we've identified some areas where we can really see some positive impact and improvement. So for example, the ambient documentation space is one that's, quite obvious. Also some, revenue cycle tasks that are great candidates for AI and AI automation. And if you have any doubts about that, just look around the showroom floor, right? Like there's ambient documentation companies everywhere. But I think what's great about some of these early use cases and early wins that we're seeing is that they're real and they have a tremendous opportunity and potential impact in what we're all trying to do in healthcare. Ambient documentation as an example, Greenway launched our Greenway Clinical Assist product, and we really are seeing 1 to 2 hours of time savings per day for the clinicians who have adopted that product. And I think the result of that early success is going to be that we're going to see a continued focus in that area, and we're going to see companies who are now inspired by that success to double down on their investments in generative AI. So I really think that it's real, it's here, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to see in the industry of the opportunity and impact.
I think we have set the bar pretty high because, as you just said, a lot of clinicians have reported back to say, hey, this form of AI, in terms of taking the notes, is really, really cutting down on my workflow. The ambient voice, the clinical notes, and the clinical assist that the ambient assist that you have.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've heard that over and over again, which I think is fantastic. But I also think that may have set the bar a little too high for us because I'm not sure all the follow-on stuff is going to be as impactful right away as the ambient stuff has been.
Possibly, but I think what's really amazing about that, as someone who's worked in this voice space for so long, the fact that there were a lot of companies, right? Some of the early pioneers that have worked in voice. It's a really hard problem to solve. And it just seems like overnight, this really immaculately hard problem, we were able to address and solve with, very high quality note output. For something that even a year ago seemed quite impossible. So you're right, it set the bar high, but I also think there's a lot of other yet to be tackled opportunities in the clinical space, as well as revenue cycle, which, a lot of revenue cycle workflow today is still a body shop. There's still humans out there, and we're starting to see a lot of private equity money certainly flowing into solving the revenue cycle problem through automation and through adoption of AI. So I think that's going to be one of the next big waves around AI automation and transformation.
I was actually going to ask you that, David. If you look sort of 3 years in the future, where do you see AI and EHRs kind of really going? What's next, in other words, right? We've heard a lot, of course, about the ambient voice. That's sort of task one. What's task 2, 3, 4? What are the things that you're working on over at Greenway to kind of bring AI and EHRs closer together?
Certainly. So, I think at Greenway, we started out with some point solution opportunities, and where we're going is now we're starting to look at how can we completely transform an ambulatory practice around this notion of automation and AI. So this year at HIMSS 25, we're actually launching a new concept called the automated healthcare practice, which is focused on building this interconnectedness between 5 different pillars of AI and AI automation. So we're looking at clinicals, we're looking at revenue cycle, we're looking at operations, patient, and community. And across each one of those, we're identifying opportunities where we can drive further AI automation to really take a lot of that, burden off the hands of our providers and better facilitate and to support them in what they're trying to do in managing their practice and ultimately taking care of their patients, right? This is ultimately what it's all about.
So I think it's really clear what AI can do in the RCM space, the revenue cycle space. Talk to me a little bit more about the patient and the operations side. What can AI do there? Can you have examples?
In the patient side?
Yeah.
Sure. So, we launched at our Engage conference last year, we launched a new product called Greenway Patient Connect. And I think the really exciting thing about Greenway Patient Connect is thinking differently about what the patient-provider interaction looks like. So if you just take scheduling as an example, there's tremendous opportunities to drive AI to support patients in finding the right provider, the right visit, and to help to automate that scheduling workflow. And then flip-wise, on the provider side, we're also looking at opportunities where we can better support their engagement with patients through better AI interactions with patient messaging and responding to patients' needs and automating where we see opportunity for things like refills, an example.
So talk to me about operations now. So we talked about the patient side. What about the operations side? Where is AI being applied there?
Yeah, operations is probably one of the areas where I'm most excited because at Greenway, we're really focusing a lot of our efforts on analytics and the opportunity that we have to drive improved insights to our practices. So one of the new products that we recently launched is around revenue cycle analytics. And we're doing RCM analytics on an AWS platform. And the reason we're doing that is because it gives us access to a breadth of generative AI tools that we can then layer on top of the analytics strategy. So, the days of hey, here's your dashboard, go figure out what insights you can derive, those are over, and now generative AI is supporting those analytics capabilities with new insights and also making it interactive, right? So if you want to take your insight one step further and ask questions about the data or create new data sets and new dashboards, you're able to do that with generative AI tools. So that's kind of the next wave of where we're going with our RCM and analytics platform. And then we're also doing a lot of things in the value-based care space and really interested around how generative AI can support value-based care analytics and population health analytics and help our clients better manage their value-based care contracts and ultimately the panel of patients that they're caring for.
Now you mentioned AWS. How are you working with AWS? I heard you mention that you're allowing people to essentially leverage a lot of the AI tools that are coming through AWS. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, and look, Colin, AWS has been a great partner of ours. We've been working with AWS for well over 3 years now. And it's interesting because originally, this partnership started with this vision of, hey, can we create a aggregated, normalized, longitudinal patient record as a means of solving our 21st century cures fire conundrum, right? We were late to the game with fire, we didn't have a great strategy, and we brought AWS to the table to help us solve this problem. And ultimately, that gave rise to what is affectionately now AWS HealthLake. And HealthLake we really view as a future healthcare innovation platform for us, because once we have all of our data now sitting in this aggregated normalized data lake on AWS, we can tap into the breadth of AI and generative AI tools that we have at our disposal with Amazon. So we can create patient and population insights and summarization with Gen AI tools just by having the data sitting in an AWS HealthLake platform. So this is something that we're really excited about, how it's going to drive and accelerate future innovation for Greenway.
One of the things I remember distinctly, having been at the conference in Austin, the Engage conference that you had, the thing that strikes me about Greenway's approach is that you're approaching AI almost equally from the patient side improvements as well as the clinician side improvements. It's not sort of one or the other. It's very well balanced. How are you maintaining that balance? Because I'm hearing a lot of the great stuff that you're doing for clinicians. How do you keep that balance going internally?
Yeah, I mean, internally we have, 3 areas of focus, right? So I think a lot of this goes back to Greenway's core purpose, right? And our core purpose is successful providers, empowered patients, healthier communities. And when we're making our own internal decisions about where we invest resources and what the defined outcomes are for projects, we always go back to that core purpose. So those 2 things in particular just happen to be, the focus for Greenway and where we really feel we want to have an impact in healthcare. So in that way, we're able to really kind of split our capacity and time and resources between that kind of nuanced, balanced focus of ensuring that we have successful providers, and then successful providers includes, across all the dimensions of clinical, revenue cycle, operational, and how they're addressing their patient needs and empowering their patients, right? And we believe, if we do that really well, we'll ultimately have the impact that we want in creating healthier communities.
So David, you mentioned that you're pretty excited about the operational stuff that you're doing. Are there any other projects that you're working on that's got you excited?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're working on right now is, and again, going back to our partnership with AWS, is that by the end of this calendar year, we are going to be one of the first EHRs to be 100% in the cloud. So we're working on a fairly sizable migration project right now to move all of our hosted infrastructure onto an AWS stack. And the reason that we're doing that is that we're really excited about the opportunity to leverage some of the capabilities of AWS to better improve uptime, scalability, all the things that our clients need for a modern system, right? So we're driving infrastructure as code investments to be able to automate deployment of infrastructure and get the scalability and disaster recovery and response time that we want out of our hosted systems. So we're excited about that project. It's a pretty big focus of ours for now, and will be done by the end of the calendar year.
So David, we've covered a lot of topics today. What's the one key message that you would like our viewers and listeners to take away from our conversation?
I was thinking about this question kind of as we were going into the conversation today, and I think my word for the year is pace. And the pace and speed of innovation and that I've seen in this industry in the last year has just really been wild. And I think for Greenway, I feel really fortunate that a lot of the platform investments that we've made over the course of the last 3 years have really positioned us well to be at the forefront of that pace of innovation. And if you asked me 5 years ago, I had a completely different narrative around this, Colin. Like I talked about, Greenway being a fast follow innovator, but things like generative AI have completely reset the playing field. And because of these platform investments, it's put Greenway in a position now where we can be pole position on innovation and deliver first of market type innovation, which is super exciting to see some of the things that Greenway's has delivered and we have on our plans and roadmap for the rest of this year.
Well, I look forward to connecting with you back at Engage, talking to more of your clients this year, hopefully. But David, between now and then, where can people go to learn more about Greenway and the work you're doing?
Yeah, of course, you can always go to our social media channels as well as greenwayhealth.com.
Awesome. Well, David, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks for being here again.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. It's been wonderful.
This has been Colin Hung for Healthcare IT Today. Thanks for watching this, and I'll catch you on the next video.